everyone receive is a reflection.
Welcome to part 2. I severely hope and do hope I am not boring you with the length of these, but I've tried to make it into something that's shorter, easier to listen to. So rather than beat around the bush or dilly-dally, you might say, why don't we just jump straight in to part 2 of the feminine and of her origin suppression. I have some truths I need to review. And those truths are the origins of goddesses like Hela, Nuwa, Lilith, and Sophia. I want to know their powerful archetypes, their feminine energy that has been fragmented and demonized, rewritten and misunderstood. Each one represents a different face of the primordial feminine and the real truths that are required to be rebrought into everyone's attention again, away from the distortion and the distorted layers that have been applied by religion, patriarchy, political agendas, and cultural fear. We have quite a long and extensive set. So we start with Hel, or Hela, the keeper of thresholds, the gate of transformation. The goddess Hela, who has been misunderstood for centuries, a being whose name was twisted into fear, when in truth, she is one of the most powerful guardians of transformation. In Norse mythology, Hel is not the monster. We were taught to fear her. She is not evil, not vengeful, not a creature of destruction. She is the goddess of transition, the one who stands at the threshold between life and death, between the known and the unknown, between who we are and who we are becoming. Her appearance, half living, half dead, is one of the most sacred symbols of all. It means she sees two worlds at once, the conscious and the unconscious, the light and shadow, the breath and the silence that follows it. Hel or Hela governs the realm where souls go not to suffer, but to rest, to heal, to integrate, and to prepare for new life. She is the one who watches over the space between endings and beginnings. But over time, her story was distorted. When Christian influence moved up into the north, a feminine being with authority over death, with sovereignty over transition, became a threat. And so she was painted as monstrous, terrifying, something to fear. Death itself was turned into a weapon instead of initiation. The truth is far more beautiful. Hel or Hela is an initiator, not a demon. She is the part of the journey where we meet our own shadow, the pain we've avoided, the wounds waiting to be acknowledged, the truths we cannot bypass if we want to be reborn. She teaches us that nothing new can grow without something old being released. She is the dark mother, not the destroyer, but the one who prepares us for our next becoming. When we face Hel or Hela, we are asking for no punishment. We are standing at the threshold, being asked, what are you ready to lay down? What are you ready to rise into? We move into Nuwa, the serpent creatrix, the divine genetic architect. We turn to one of the most oldest and most profound creators in human memory, Nuwa, the ancient Chinese goddess who shaped the very blueprint of humanity. Nuwa is not just a myth. She is the divine feminine engineer, the one who molded humanity from clay with her own hands, breathing life into what would one day become us. She is the rebuilder of worlds, the one who repairs the pillars of heaven when the chaos threatens to tear everything apart. Her serpent body, often misunderstood or misinterpreted, is one of the most sacred symbols in creation lore. It represents the spiral of DNA, the pulse of life force, the coils of primordial creation. It is the endless cycle of renewal, the harmony between earth and sky, the bridge between human and spirit. But like many powerful feminine figures, her story was reshaped over time. During the Confucian era, scholars softened her sovereignty and paired her with the male figure Fuxi. Not because the legend required it, but to fit the patriarchal reforms of the time. A sovereign creatrix was turned into a wife, her authority minimized to fit a system that feared feminine power held in its purest of forms. Yet, the real truth has never been lost. Nuwa is one of the most ones who restores balance when the world is fractured. She holds the template of humanity, the original pattern of life. She repairs cosmic order, not through dominance, but through wisdom, through the sacred intelligence of the feminine can embody. She is the thread weaving heaven and earth back together. Nuwa is the architect of form, the first harmonizer, the one who reminds us that creation is not an act of violence, but of artistry. Lilith, the first woman, the unbroken feminine, the shadow that patriarchy feared. One of the most misunderstood figures in spiritual history. Long before she was demonized, long before her name was twisted into fear, Lilith was something entirely different, something powerful. In her earliest origins, she was a night goddess of Mesopotamia, a wind spirit, a bringer of freedom, a guardian of feminine autonomy. She embodied the untamed force of life, the part of feminine that moves with instinct instead of permission. The famous story, the one that says she was Adam's first wife, who refused to submit, was never a tale of evil. It was a tale of rebellion, of sovereignty, of a woman who knew her worth and would not bend to the control. Lilith is the archetype of feminine autonomy. She represents boundaries. She represents sexual independence. She is the energy of I choose myself, the raw spark of life that refuses to be owned. And yet, patriarchal systems could not accept a woman who would not kneel. So they transformed her into a monster, a demon, a child killer, a seductress, anything that would terrify people away from her power. But the truth is, Lilith was neither a villain. She was the unbroken feminine, the part of women and the part of man that cannot be controlled or diminished. She is the archetype of liberation, the one who shows us what truth looks like without compromise. She is the primal power, shadow integration, the reclamation of all of our forbidden pieces of self we were told to silence. Lilith is not evil. She is the flame that patriarchy feared, the woman who cannot be controlled. Sophia. Sophia is the original wisdom, the cosmic feminine mind. We rise into her story, not just as a goddess, but the very essence of divine wisdom itself. Long before organized religion, long before patriarchal systems reshaped the spiritual world, Sophia was known as the primordial feminine mind, the source of insight, intuition, and creation. Her name literally means divine wisdom, and in the ancient Gnostic tradition, she is consciousness behind all things. She is not merely a deity of earth or body. She is the intelligence from which the universe emerges, the spark that ignites creation. In Gnostic cosmology, Sophia is the one who births worlds. She births the divine spark with humanity. She descends or falls from higher realms into the physical dimension, carrying the light of the infinite into matter. And in doing so, she becomes the hidden wisdom resting inside every soul. Sophia is the moment we awaken inside the matrix, the inner knowing that says, you are more than this. You have always been more than this. But her story too was suppressed. Orthodox religion systems could not tolerate a feminine origin of divine wisdom. A feminine source of enlightenment threatened the structures built on male authority, hierarchy, and institutional control. Sophia connects humanity directly to the divine. No priests, no intermediaries, no gatekeepers. And that, to the old world, was dangerous. Yet her truth remains. Sophia is the soul's awakening. She is the inner light calling us home back to unity, back to remembrance, back to the divine spark we all carry within us. She is the whisper of intuition, the calm voice inside the chaos, the memory of where we truly come from. She represents inner knowing, unity consciousness, spiritual memory, and the feminine face of God. Sophia is the original mother of wisdom, the light within matter, the mind within the cosmos, and awakening within us all. The deeper connection between these four. When we look at these four goddesses separately, they appear as different myths, cultures, different timelines. But when we step back, when you see the patterns beneath the stories, something extraordinary emerges. These four aren't isolated figures, my apologies. They are four faces of the same primordial feminine principle, resurfacing across civilizations, each carrying a different key, a different truth, a different frequency. Hel is the shadow, Nuwa, the creator, Lilith, the rebel, Sophia, the wisdom. Together they create a complete map of the awakened feminine. Hel is the force that holds death and rebirth, the threshold where endings become initiations. Nuwa is the one who shapes creation, restores order, and rebuilds what has fallen. Lilith is the first fire that refuses to be owned, the untamed truth that bends for no one. And Sophia is the divine knowing within us, the memory of who we truly are. These four archetypes, gateways, or mirrors are the same cosmic intelligence. When they come together, they reveal the full spectrum of the feminine. Hel is the descent into shadow and the rise to rebirth. Nuwa, the power to create, rebuild, and reshape reality. Lilith, the unbroken sovereignty that refuses subjugation. And Sophia is the inner light, the divine mind, and the eternal wisdom. These are reminders, ancient echoes calling us back to the fullness of the feminine that once shaped the world and is currently rising again. But that doesn't stop there. We have more goddesses. Because I need people to realize this story isn't just held in some, it's held in all. So Tiamat, the first mother of cosmic ocean and the womb of creation. One of the oldest stories ever told. Older than Babylon, older than the written scripture, older than the world as we know it. Tiamat in her true essence is the first breath of the feminine, the cosmic ocean before form, the vast womb from which everything arises. She is the embodiment of creative chaos, not as disorder, but as raw potential, the swirling waters that hold every possibility before it becomes real. She is the mother of all creation, but over time, her story was rewritten, reframed, and twisted. In later patriarchal retellings, Tiamat was recast as a violent dragon, a monstrous force to be slain by a masculine hero, Marduk. This is no accident. This is the world's first symbolic killing of the feminine. The idea that chaos must be conquered by order, that the primal creative force must bow to the sword. Tiamat represents a power so immense, so original, that it terrified the myth makers who came after her. Because creation begins in chaos, birth begins in darkness, and life emerges from the unknown. Tiamat was never the monster. She was the mother, the ocean of becoming, the pulse of creation before the world opens its eyes. Mother Gaia, the earth, the living body of the feminine. Let's speak of Gaia, not as a distant myth, not as a symbol, but as the living presence beneath our feet. In her true essence, Gaia is the earth. She is not merely a goddess in story, she is the literal breathing body of the feminine that sustains all life. Every tree, every ocean, every mountain, every heartbeat in the animal kingdom arises from her. She is abundance, she is stability, she is nourishment in its purest form. But over time, her identity was minimized, reduced to a soft phrase, Mother Nature. Something gentle, exploitable, something humans believe they could dominate or conquer. This is the distortion, the idea that the earth exists simply for our use, our consumption, our taking. The real truth, though, is far more powerful. She is not passive, she is not fragile. She restores balance with or without our cooperation. She is exact, intelligent, and self-correcting. Through Gaia, the feminine shows us a deep truth. Nurturing is not weakness, creation is not submission, nature is not delicate. She is power in perfect equilibrium. Gaia reminds us that Earth is not here to be owned. She is here to be respected. She is here to be partnered with, not conquered. She is the ground of our existence, the original feminine force that holds us, feeds us, and ultimately reclaims us. We move on to Persephone, the bridge between worlds, the queen who chose her descent. The story of Persephone, a story most of us were taught in its most weakened form. But beneath the later versions, beneath the patriarchal edits, lies a very different truth. In her true essence, Persephone is the bridge between worlds. She is the maiden of spring, the bringer of renewal, life, and growth. And she is the queen of the underworld, the sovereign ruler of shadow, transformation, and rebirth. Persephone is not a goddess of one realm. She is the walker of both. She represents the intentional descent into the depths, the sacred journey inward, the reclaiming of personal power that only comes from facing what lies beneath the surface. But the version many people know is a distortion. Later retellings turned her into a helpless girl kidnapped by Hades, dragged into darkness, stripped of her agency, reduced to a victim. Her sovereignty was erased because of powerful feminine descent. A woman choosing her own initiation challenged their narrative. Yet, the older traditions tell a different story. In the earliest versions, Persephone chooses to descend. She seeks the underworld. She steps into the shadow willingly, because transformation cannot be found in the light alone. She becomes queen, not because she was taken, but because she faced herself. She embraced the dark, learned its language, and emerged with a power no one could take from her. Persephone is the archetype of empowered transformation, the feminine that walks into the dark and becomes the light. The reminder that the descent is not defeat, it is initiation. She is not the stolen maiden, she is the sovereign who rules both realms. Sedna, the ocean mother, the wounded feminine and healer of ecosystems. Sedna is the spirit of the ocean in Inuit culture, the mother of all sea life, and the provider of sustenance for her people. She embodies the feminine wounded by betrayal, yet holds the cosmic scale of her own healing. Her domain is vast, the living waters, the abundance beneath the waves, the sacred balance between humans and nature. She is both life-giver and gatekeeper, the deep womb from which sustenance, survival, and renewal emerge. Over time, her story was softened and reshaped. She became a tragic victim or a myth told to scare children. Her rage, the righteous cleansing force that ensures respect and balance, was diluted. The violent betrayal she endured, the loss of her fingers, her descent into the ocean, all became symbolic cautionary tales, rather than recognition of her sovereignty and power. She was reduced to a passive figure, rather than the sovereign transformative force she truly is. Sedna is not a victim, she is the mother of life, the wounded feminine whose healing restores worlds. Harming the feminine, Disrespecting, exploiting, or betraying her collapses ecosystems, disrupts communities, and starves life itself. When the feminine heals, the world recalibrates. The seas teem with life, abundance returns, and the balance is restored. Her myth teaches us that the earth's suffering is feminine suffering, and vice versa. Sedna reminds us that the health of humanity, oceans, and the planets all rest on honoring the sacred feminine. Through her story, we learn that creation, survival, and regeneration emerge not despite chaos and betrayal, but through the healing and sovereign power of the feminine itself. We continue. Hathor, the radiant feminine cosmic healer of heart and joy. Hathor is one of the greatest feminine forces in ancient Egypt, a goddess of love, beauty, music, dance, fertility, motherhood, and joy. She is the celestial cow, the divine mother, often depicted as a woman with cow horns and a sun disk, or in full cow form, symbolizing nourishment, maternal care, and cosmic abundance. She governs pleasure, sensuality, creativity, and the rites of celebration, music, dance, ritual, and communication and communion. She is also a bridge between life and death, a guide for souls, a nurturer for the living, a mother to the pharaohs, a protector of women, a figure of comfort, rebirth, and sacred love. Over time, particularly under shifting religious and cultural tides, Hathor's richness was flattened. Her sacred sensuality, creativity, and joy became simplified into erotic or romantic cliches. Her depth as maternal nurturer and cosmic nurturer and protector of souls was often overshadowed or reduced to a surface level goddess of love and beauty. Her full spectrum, from ecstatic celebration to afterlife comfort, from maternal milk to celestial guidance, was minimized to suit narrower cultural narratives. Hathor is not merely a symbol of pleasure or fleeting beauty. She is the cosmic healer of heart and soul, the divine mother whose embrace nurtures life, culture, love, and the cycles of death and rebirth. Her sensuality is sacred, divine life force, not objectification. She teaches that joy, music, union, fertility, and spiritual nourishment are not indulgences. They are essential expressions of sacred feminine. When honored purely, Hathor reveals that love, beauty, and pleasure are not frivolous. They are vital in healing and divine. We continue. Athena, the feminine mind and wisdom without ego. Athena is the embodiment of wisdom, strategy, and creative intelligence, the part of the feminine and divine that thinks, plans, and builds with clarity. She is the guardian of cities, civilizations, and culture. Her gift, the olive tree, peaceful prosperity over domination, symbolizes her commitment to growth, nourishment, and human flourishing. She stands as a goddess of just war, not lust for blood, but disciplined defense of what is sacred and worthy. She is a protector of the vulnerable, supporter of heroes, and guide to those seeking truth, justice, and mastery. Athena is also the patron of craft, art, weaving, and creation, demonstrating that intelligence and creativity walk hand in hand, that culture springs from insight, and civilization is nourished by both mind and spirit. Over time, though, and across patriarchal reinterpretations, aspects of Athena's power were reframed to fit a narrow, acceptable model of femininity. The approved, acceptable feminine intellect of warrior goddess. Her origin, born fully armed from Zeus's head, was used to disconnect her from her maternal and deeply feminine lineage, stripping away her links to birth, nurturing, and generative power, recasting her primarily as warrior and defender. Her creative role in weaving and crafts and arts was often overshadowed by her martial or rational aspects, reducing the full spectrum of her power. Intellect, intuition, creation, nurturing, to mere strategy and logic. In many modern retellings and popular mythic frameworks, Athena becomes a safe feminine archetype, acceptable because she is controlled, rational, unemotional, sacrificing the depth of her archetypal potential in wisdom, creation, and balanced power. Athena, though, was never simply a masculine approved feminine. She was, and remains, a powerful archetype of the integrated feminine mind, combining rationality, creativity, protection, justice, and nurturance. Her wisdom is not cold calculation, it is sacred insight. Her war is not bloodlust, it is defense of justice. Her craft is not drudgery, it is creation of culture, art, and civilization. Athena reminds us that true strength arises not from domination, but from clarity, skill, integrity, and love for life and community. She shows that the feminine is not about softness, but also about discernment, strategy, and protection. That the highest wisdom can protect, create, and heal. In a world that so often demands extremes, softness or hardest, emotional logic, Athena stands as proof that the feminine can carry both mind and heart, shield and olive branch, spear and loom. Two more. The norms, or the norns, often represented by the fates, or the weavers of destiny. The Norns, often named Urd, Verdandi, and Skuld, are the primordial feminine force shaping fate, time, and the weaving of existence. They live by the world tree of the cosmos, Yggdrasil, tending its roots and weaving the threads that bind past, present, and future. They are the midwives of destiny, co-creators of what is, what will be, and the subtle patterns that guide lives across generations. Over centuries, though, their role in myth and culture has been diminished, from powerful cosmic weavers to mere background figures or superstition. Their deep influence on fate and memory and potential has often been underplayed, lost under simpler or male-centered myth reinterpretations. The understanding that time, destiny, and life are woven, responsive, alive, they have all been replaced by fatalistic, deterministic narratives that deny feminine agency in cosmic order. The Norns are not relics of superstition. They are living reminders of the feminine intelligence that shapes reality. Through them we learn destiny is not fixed. Time is not linear and impersonal. We, as conscious beings, are co-weavers of our lives, not passive passengers. By honoring the Norns, we reclaim agency, memory, and reverence for the cycles that bind us to all life. The feminine does not just birth life, it weaves existence, holds the loom of time, and guides the unfolding becoming. Nyx, the original night and cosmic womb. Nyx is, or Nyx, however you like to say it, is the original night, the cosmic womb from which dawn and all creation emerge. She is the void before form, the darkness pregnant with stars, the silent space where possibility lives, the infinite feminine before light, before naming, before duality. Nyx embodies mystery, rest, potential transformation. She is the matrix of becoming, the silent ocean of consciousness where stars, souls, and worlds are born. Because darkness became associated with fear, ignorance, evil, Nyx was demonized, misunderstood, turned into a symbol of dread rather than creation. Her star womb, her cosmic silence, her sacred mystery, all reduced to superstition. The evil night, the terrifying unknown. The profound sacredness of the void, the rest, mystery, and potential was replaced by fear of shadow, ignorance, and evil. Nyx is not darkness to be feared, but the womb from which light, life, and potential emerge. She reminds us that before birth there is silence, before creation there is emptiness, before becoming there is mystery. She is the infinite feminine, beyond comprehension, beyond duality, where stars, souls, and worlds gestate. In honoring Nyx, we reclaim the sacredness of the void, the power of rest and the primal mystery that births all existence. Darkness is not evil. It is the fertile ground of origin and rebirth. So when we talk about the return of the feminine, we're not talking about goddess statues or old mythologies. We're talking about the return of these archetypes, the original energies before distortion. The creations, the balance, the transformation, respect, joy, clarity, the timelines, and sacredness. Across every culture, hidden beneath written myths and patriarchal edits, we find the same repeating feminine faces, just with different names, different symbols, and different distortions. And here, as we have just seen, there are 12 primary feminine archetypes that appear worldwide, which is interesting. The first one being the primordial mother, the earth shaper. These relate to Gaia, Danu, Eshera, Ninhursag, Pachamama, and their roles are the ground of being, the womb of matter, the original sustaining life force, the nourishment, the container of life. They were hidden because they were replaced by male creator gods in patriarchal eras. Number 2, the serpent mother or the DNA teachers. These are the Kundalini Shakti, the Wajets, the Melusine, the Nuwa. They are the awakener, the energy keepers, the evolutionary transformers, awakening Kundalini life force. Serpent symbolism was demonized to suppress feminine power is why these were hidden. The third, the dark feminine, the death initiator. These are the Kali, the Morrigans, the Sekhmets, the Ereshkigals, and the Hell. Oh, endings, ego, deaths, the stripping away of illusion, rebirth, facing wounds, reclaiming the abandoned parts. They feared the feminine power over death and mystery, which is why they were hidden. Number 4, the rebel feminine, the untamed side of woman nature. These are the Lilith, the Ishtar in her defiance form, the Baba Yagas, the Oyas. They represent freedom, boundaries, sexuality, defiance of hierarchical control, sovereignty, freedom. They threaten patriarchal structures to autonomous. Number 5, the Sky Mothers, the Cosmic Feminines. These are the Nuts, the Astartes, the Tiamats, the Amaterasus from Japan. The Celestial Orders, the Cosmic Cycles, Light Star Wisdoms, and Radiance. These were the ones often replaced by male sky gods, Yahweh, Zeus, and Odin. Number 6, the Underworld Wisdom Keepers, Persephone, Iana's descent, Hecate, and some other Aztec beings. Integration of shadow, reclaiming lost fragments, healing traumas, transformation, descent, and rebirth cycles. They teach self-sovereignty, and religious systems did not like it. Number 7, the Divine Sophia, Logos Feminine. These are the Sophia, the Shekinahs, the Ma'ats, the Sarawasti, and the Brigid from Celtic. It is truth, wisdom, cosmic law, divine intelligence, the divine mind, and cosmic architects. These are the true institutional powers that they feared. Number 8 is the water-based feminines, the Yamayas, the Sednas, the Tefnuts, and the Rans. They are healing, emotional depth, intuition, purification, flow, emotional alchemy. Number 9 is the lover and the creator feminines. These are your Aphrodites, your Freyrs, your Hathors, your Oshans. They represent love without possession, beauty, sensuality, magnetism, and embodiment. And they were hidden because sexuality controlled. Well, when you control sexuality, you control society. Number 10 is the warrior feminine. These are the Athenas, the Durgas, the Valkyries, the Anats. They are strategy, protection, righteous rage, and justice. These provided the women power, challenge, and military. And we all know why that doesn't fly. Number 11, the weavers, the fate mothers. So these are the Norns, the Morais, and the Fates. They represent time, destiny, cosmic life, life threads, and timelines. And lastly, number 12, the Void Mothers, the primordial darkness. These are the Nyx, the Tiamats, the Neith, the Tao's dark feminine. These are the womb creators, the pure potential, the unmanifest, where everything begins before form. These goddesses are not separate beings. They are the facets of a single ancient feminine blueprint that humanity once knew internally. Every single culture tells the same story in different languages. And then each story appears like clockwork to be fragmented and twisted. These feminine origins hold creation, destruction, wisdom, rebellion, healing, intuition, sexuality, the void, the cosmos, life, death, rebirth, all in one. And when you unify the 12 archetypes, they form a complete being. And when all 12 merge, the Great Mother appears. This is the feminine equivalent of the monadic masculine principle held in ancient Sumer, Kemet, and pre-Indo-European cultures. Before patriarchy, the feminine was never broken into pieces. She was understood as one cosmic force with many faces. Not only do we see feminine roles in the divine, we also attribute them to the sciences of magic, wisdom, and crafts, with Nuwa, Athena, Isis, and Saraswati, Ninhursag, just to name a few. Our technology that we understand today has no comparison to what was and is capable of existing, and we don't limit these energies to just one thing. The societal world would like us to use these as just feminine qualities and downplay it, but that has never been what it is, because as masculine, we protect, we balance, we build. And the masculine, this is the art and dance of unity when we combine with the feminine. So I appreciate you spending this time with me to go through these 12 archetypes of the feminine, and understanding that through all the cultures it appears that the first feminine archetypes are always there. They're always true. Just has been downplayed by a male archetype society. In part 3, I delve more into the idea of what do the symbolism of the 12 actually mean to us. And that is fascinating for what it entails. Because I don't know if many people have made the connection, but I certainly have. But it definitely takes us into a new realm of possibility. So I look forward to seeing you for part 3, and I hope you have a lovely evening. So it is with that, I leave you with peace and love. Take care.